In the early summer of 2003, the waters off the coast of British Columbia, Canada were calm and serene. Nestled in these remote waters was a small fishing village called Havens Point. The village, home to a close-knit community of fishermen, was picturesque. The dense forests stretched to meet the rocky shores, where the Pacific Ocean lapped gently. The waters were rich with life, from schools of fish to playful seals and the occasional sighting of orcas or killer whales. Orcas were a familiar sight in these parts. Known for their intelligence and hunting skills, orcas often traveled in pods, working together to capture their prey. They were majestic creatures, yet also formidable predators. Fishermen in Havens Point respected them, understanding their place in the ecosystem. Over the past few months, however, a sense of unease had settled over the village. Fishermen had started to disappear. 17 men, seasoned and careful, had vanished without a trace. Boats were found adrift, empty and silent. Dr. Sarah Collins, a marine biologist, was called in to investigate. Sarah, known for her work with marine mammals, was intrigued and concerned. She arrived at Havens Point on June 14, 2003, a day marked by bright sunshine and calm seas. The villagers greeted her with a mix of hope and apprehension, eager for answers. Sarah spent her first day on the water with Captain Jack Thompson, a veteran fisherman. Jack was in his 60s, with weathered skin and a deep knowledge of the sea. They set out at dawn, the boat slicing through the still waters. Sarah watched the coastline recede, her mind focused on the mystery that lay ahead. The morning passed in relative quiet. Sarah and Jack talked about the orcas, their behaviors, and the recent disappearances. Orcas, Jack explained, were intelligent hunters. They used complex strategies to catch their prey, often working together in coordinated attacks. But the idea that an orca could be targeting humans was almost unthinkable. As they ventured further into the open ocean, Sarah took notes and made observations. She watched the water intently, hoping for a glimpse of the elusive creatures. The sun climbed higher and the heat became oppressive. Just as Sarah was about to suggest heading back, Jack pointed to a disturbance in the water ahead. They approached cautiously. The water churned and frothed, and for a moment Sarah thought they might be witnessing a hunting pod. But what she saw next chilled her to the bone. Floating in the water was a partially submerged fishing boat. Its sides were gouged and scarred, evidence of a violent encounter. Sarah and Jack pulled closer, their hearts pounding. The boat was empty, but the damage was clear. Deep, jagged marks covered the hull as if something had rammed it repeatedly. Sarah's mind raced. She knew that orcas were powerful, but this kind of aggression was unusual. They returned to Havens Point with the damaged boat in tow, the weight of the discovery pressing down on them. Back at the village, Sarah examined the boat more closely. The marks were unmistakable. They matched the size and shape of an orca's teeth. Sarah shared her findings with the villagers. Fear spread through the community. The orcas were not just hunting fish, they were attacking the fishermen themselves. Sarah knew she had to find a way to stop this before more lives were lost. Sarah spent the next few days on the water, observing the orcas from a distance. She studied their movements, trying to understand what had caused this change in behavior. Orcas were known to be affected by changes in their environment. Overfishing had depleted their primary food sources, forcing them to adapt. But targeting humans was a new and terrifying development. On June 18, 2003, Sarah set out alone, determined to get closer to the orcas. She navigated her boat to a known feeding ground, a place where the orcas often hunted seals. She anchored a safe distance away and waited. Hours passed, and just as she was about to give up, she saw them. A pod of orcas surfaced, their sleek bodies gliding through the water with ease. Sarah watched through her binoculars, noting their behavior. They moved with purpose, circling a small cluster of rocks where seals often basked. Suddenly, one of the orcas broke away from the group. It headed straight for Sarah's boat. Her heart raced as the orca drew closer. It was massive, easily over 20 feet long, with a distinct notch in its dorsal fin. The orca circled the boat, its movements deliberate. Sarah could see the intelligence in its eyes, a cold calculation that sent a shiver down her spine. The orca bumped the boat, testing its strength. Sarah held her breath, praying the boat would hold. The orca then rammed the side with incredible force. The impact nearly knocked Sarah off her feet. She clung to the railing, her mind racing with fear and determination. The orca attacked again, this time with more ferocity. Its teeth scraped the hull, leaving deep gashes. Sarah grabbed a flare gun and fired a warning shot into the air. The orca paused, then dove beneath the surface. For a moment, there was silence. Sarah scanned the water, trying to anticipate the next move. The orca emerged suddenly, launching itself at the boat. It breached the surface, its massive body crashing down with a force that sent waves crashing over the deck. Sarah was thrown to the ground, water flooding the boat. She scrambled to her feet, desperate to keep the vessel afloat. The orca circled once more, its eyes locked on Sarah. She could see the raw power and determination in its gaze. The orca lunged again, but this time Sarah was ready. She fired another flare, this one aimed directly at the water in front of the orca. The flare exploded, startling the orca. It veered away, disappearing beneath the waves. Sarah wasted no time. She started the engine and sped back to Havens Point, the boat listing to one side from the damage. She reached the shore, her body trembling with exhaustion and relief. The villagers helped her out of the boat, their faces filled with concern and fear. As Sarah pieced together the evidence, a grim realization dawned on her. The orca's behavior was not random. It was a calculated response to the depletion of its food sources. Overfishing had decimated the local fish population, leaving the orcas desperate and starving. This particular orca had learned to associate boats with the scarcity of food and had started targeting fishermen in retaliation. The attacks escalated over the next few weeks. Boats were found wrecked and more fishermen went missing. The community was gripped by fear, and fishing activities came to a halt. Sarah knew she had to act quickly to prevent further loss of life. She consulted with marine experts and local authorities, devising a plan to track and hopefully capture the rogue orca. Sarah equipped her boat with reinforced hulls and monitoring devices. She set out again, this time with a team of experts ready to assist. They navigated to the areas where the attacks had occurred, hoping to find the orca and understand its movements. Days turned into weeks, and the orca remained elusive. Tensions ran high as the team struggled to stay vigilant. One evening, just as the sun was setting, Sarah spotted the orca's fin in the distance. It was alone, moving slowly through the water. The team moved into position, their hearts pounding. Sarah activated the tracking device, sending a signal towards the orca. The orca responded immediately, turning towards the boat with alarming speed. The orca rammed the boat with tremendous force, but this time the reinforced hull held. Sarah and her team worked quickly, deploying nets and tranquilizers. The orca fought back, its powerful body thrashing against the restraints. Sarah's heart ached as she watched the struggle, knowing that the orca was acting out of desperation. After what felt like an eternity, the orca was finally subdued. The team carefully transported it to a secure facility where it could be monitored and studied. Sarah continued her research, advocating for stricter fishing regulations and the protection of marine life. The attacks ceased, and slowly the fishing community of Havens Point began to rebuild. The villagers never forgot the terror they had faced, but they also learned to respect the delicate balance of the ocean. Sarah's work brought new understanding and appreciation for the orcas and their plight. Sunset Beach in California was bustling with activity on a warm summer in 2000. The sun shone brightly over the clear blue waters, reflecting off the gentle waves that lapped against the sandy shore. Families and tourists scattered across the beach, setting up colorful umbrellas and laying out towels while children built sandcastles near the water's edge. Mark Eldridge, a seasoned lifeguard, scanned the horizon from his perch. At 32, Mark was known for his sharp eyes and quick reflexes, skills honed over years of training. He took pride in his work, understanding the weight of responsibility he carried daily. Sunset Beach, with its picturesque views and inviting waters, was not just a place for relaxation. It was also home to various marine life, including the majestic but dangerous great white shark. Great white sharks were common in California waters. Known for their robust build and predatory instincts, these apex predators could grow up to 20 feet long. They typically roamed the ocean's deeper parts, but occasionally ventured closer to shore. While shark attacks were rare, the potential danger was always present, making vigilance a crucial part of Mark's daily routine. On this particular day, Mark's colleague Sarah Davidson was patrolling the beach on foot. Sarah, a 28-year-old lifeguard with a calm demeanor, had been working alongside Mark for 3 years. The two shared a mutual respect and an unspoken understanding, having faced numerous emergencies together. They were part of a larger team dedicated to ensuring the safety of everyone who visited Sunset Beach. As the day progressed, Mark and Sarah kept a watchful eye on the swimmers. Among them was a young man named Jason Myers, a 25-year-old fitness enthusiast who frequented the beach for his daily swim. Jason had moved to California a year ago and quickly fell in love with the ocean. He was a strong swimmer, often venturing further out than most. The date was August 14, 2000, and the beach was at its peak of activity in the early afternoon. The sun was high, casting a golden hue over the sand and sea. Mark adjusted his binoculars, scanning the water as he had done countless times before. Then he noticed something unusual, a dark silhouette moving beneath the surface, farther out in the ocean. Mark's heart rate quickened as he focused on the shape. It was a great white shark, unmistakably giant and heading towards the shore. He knew he had to act fast. Without hesitation, he grabbed the emergency whistle hanging around his neck and blew it, a sharp, piercing sound that cut through the noise of the beachgoers. The alarm sent a wave of panic through the crowd. Parents called for their children, and swimmers began to make their way back to the shore. Mark's eyes remained fixed on the shark, now alarmingly close to where Jason was swimming. He shouted for Jason to return, waving his arms frantically, but the distance and noise made it difficult for Jason to hear. Sarah, noticing the commotion, sprinted towards the water, ready to assist. She reached the surf's edge, urging people to escape the water. Mark knew they had only moments before the situation turned dire. He grabbed a rescue board and plunged into the ocean, paddling with all his strength towards Jason. Mark saw the young man, Jason, finally turning as he became aware of the danger. The shark was only a few feet away, its dorsal fin cutting ominously through the water. Mark's training kicked in and he focused on one goal, getting Jason out of harm's way. Just as Mark reached Jason, the shark struck with terrifying speed. The massive predator lunged forward, its mighty jaws clamping down on Jason's leg. The water turned red with blood and Jason screamed in pain. Mark's heart pounded, but he didn't hesitate. He grabbed Jason by the arm and pulled with all his might, trying to free him from the shark's grip. The shark thrashed violently, determined not to let go. Mark kicked at the water, using the rescue board as a barrier between them and the shark. Jason's face was contorted in agony, but he fought to stay conscious, trusting Mark to save him. Sarah watched from the shore, ready to jump in if needed, while the rest of the beach looked on in horror. Mark freed Jason with a final, desperate yank from the shark's jaws. The shark circled back, its eyes cold and calculating. But Mark pushed Jason onto the rescue board and began paddling towards the shore with all his strength. Blood trailed behind them, a stark reminder of the close call they had just survived. As they neared the shore, Sarah waded into the water to help pull them in. Together, they lifted Jason onto the sand, where they could see the extent of his injuries. His leg was severely torn, the bite marks deep and ragged. Sarah immediately applied pressure to the wound, trying to stem the flow of blood while Mark called for medical assistance. An ambulance arrived within minutes, and the paramedics took over, stabilizing Jason and preparing him for transport to the hospital. Mark and Sarah watched as their friend and fellow beachgoers were taken away, feeling relief and exhaustion. They had done everything they could, but the memory of the attack would linger long after the physical wounds had healed. Sunset Beach returned to a semblance of normalcy in the days that followed. The community rallied around Jason, offering support and encouragement during his recovery. Mark and Sarah continued their duties, ever vigilant and aware of the dangers lurking beneath the waves. The story of the great white shark at Sunset Beach became a cautionary tale shared among locals and visitors alike. It was a testament to the bravery and quick thinking of the lifeguards, who risked their lives to save another. Arriving at the Whitsunday Islands in the Great Barrier Reef for their much-awaited tropical getaway, the Velasco family from Madrid arrived on a brilliantly sunny day in early April 2007. Manuel Mint and Lucia Graval had reserved an expedition package with multiple guided snorkeling tours to explore the colorful underwater world teeming with marine life. Their first snorkeling tour was scheduled for the following morning at Hardy Reef, one of the area's most renowned snorkeling spots. Their guide, named Jack, a cheerful man, gave instructions on safety and snorkeling etiquette as the family's boat approached the mooring line. He reminded them not to touch anything, as many underwater creatures could become dangerous if provoked. The Velasco family and other tourists descended into the glistening waters after Jack guided them to the edge. The schools of exotic fish darting around them and the kaleidoscope of colors from the coral astounded the Velasco family. Their 12-year-old daughter, Maria, was particularly enthralled and swam forward to get a closer look at a bright purple sea fan. Suddenly, Jack raised his whistle to attract everyone's attention. Maria had drifted too close to the reef, so Jack animatedly waved her back toward the group. As she turned to rejoin them, her fin kicked up sand and debris, disturbing a camouflaged sea snake on the bottom. With blinding speed, the 2-meter-long banded sea snake struck, sinking its fangs into her shoulder before she even realized what had happened. Maria thrashed, shocked, and in excruciating pain as the strong poison shot through her. While continuously blowing his whistle to indicate an emergency, Jack swiftly dragged the terrified girl away from the agitated snake. As Maria gasped for air and her face twisted in pain, the other snorkelers stared in horror. Jack calculated that they would need to swim quickly to reach the boat in at least 20 minutes. He realized they needed to move rapidly to save Maria and treat her with the anti-venom kept aboard. As they watched their daughter's condition worsen, Manuel and Lucia were gripped by fear and clung to one another. Jack gave Maria a firm grip and kicked her hard to start dragging her in the direction of the boat, gesturing for the others to follow closely behind. The group moved through the warm waters of the reef, the lively atmosphere now tinged with fear, and every minute seemed to drag on forever. Maria's breathing became dangerously shallow, and her eyes rolled back as she fell unconscious. The boat appeared in front of them just when it appeared that they might not make it to it in time. When he noticed the distress signal, the captain ordered emergency medical assistance immediately over the radio as the crew got ready to bring Maria on board. Jack used the last of his diminishing energy to lift Maria over the edge of the boat, where the crew immediately began to give him a cardiopulmonary resuscitation and anti-venom. As they watched their daughter's lifeless body, Lucia sobbed uncontrollably, and Manuel held onto the rails while tears streamed down his face. Maria's eyes fluttered open after what felt like an eternity, her breathing getting stronger by the moment as the anti-venom entered her body. When the emergency medical personnel showed up to stabilize Maria and get her ready for his transfer to the hospital, the family gave each other hugs. The Velasco family was stunned that such a beautiful but deadly creature could inflict such trauma and terror in an instant. During her recovery, Maria learned to respect and be cautious of all marine life. She understood that while the vast ocean holds great wonder, it also poses real threats to those who venture into its depths. This experience left her with a profound appreciation for the delicate balance between admiration and caution in the natural world. On a sunny morning in June 2004, the Johnson family set out for a snorkeling adventure off the coast of Florida. The day was bright, with a gentle breeze and a clear sky that promised perfect conditions for exploring the shallow waters. The turquoise sea sparkled under the sun, inviting and serene. The family consisted of Peter Johnson, a 38-year-old marine biologist, his wife Laura, a 36-year-old preschool teacher, and their 2 children, 10-year-old Tommy and 8-year-old Lily. The Johnsons loved the ocean and often spent their vacations discovering its wonders. This trip was no different, and they were excited to explore the vibrant coral reefs and colorful fish that thrived in the warm waters. They set off from a small town called Biscayne Bay on the Florida coast. Biscayne Bay was known for its beautiful reefs and rich marine life. The waters here were home to various species, including the formidable bull shark. Bull sharks were notorious for their aggressive behavior and tendency to venture into shallow waters, making them one of the most dangerous sharks to humans. Despite this, sightings were rare, and the Johnsons felt confident in their safety measures. The date was June 10th, and the day had started wonderfully. The family enjoyed a hearty breakfast at a beachside cafe before boarding a small boat to the snorkeling site. Peter gave his children a brief lesson on marine life and respecting the ocean. Tommy and Lily listened eagerly, their eyes wide with excitement. Upon reaching the snorkeling spot, Peter and Laura helped their children into their gear. The water was warm and clear, offering perfect visibility. They slipped into the sea, marveling at the underwater world that unfolded before them. Schools of brightly colored fish darted around, and the coral formations were breathtakingly beautiful. The family swam together, pointing out various marine creatures and enjoying the peacefulness of the ocean. Peter was constantly vigilant, keeping a close eye on his family while also taking in the beauty of their surroundings. He knew the importance of staying aware in the water, especially in areas where predators like bull sharks could appear. Bull sharks were known for their stocky build and aggressive nature. They were capable of swimming in both salt and fresh water. They were apex predators with powerful jaws and preferred hunting in shallow waters. The Johnsons swam further from the boat, drawn by the allure of the deeper reef. Peter felt a sense of pride watching his children explore, their laughter and excitement filling the air. Laura floated nearby, her face lit up with joy as she observed the marine life. It was a perfect day, and they made memories that would last a lifetime. As they ventured further, Peter noticed a sudden change in the water's mood. The fish swimming so freely seemed to scatter, and an eerie calm settled over the area. His instincts kicked in and he scanned the surroundings more intently. Then he saw a dark, menacing shape moving silently through the water. A bull shark, unmistakably giant and powerful, was heading towards them. Peter's heart raced as he assessed the situation. He knew they needed to stay calm and return to the boat without panicking. He gestured to Laura, who immediately understood the gravity of the situation. They gathered Tommy and Lily, keeping their movements slow and controlled. The shark drew closer, its eyes fixed on the group. Peter felt a surge of fear and determination. He had to protect his family and get them to safety. Using their snorkeling gear as a makeshift defense, they began to swim back towards the boat, every stroke filled with urgency and caution. The bull shark's movements became more aggressive as it closed in on the family. Peter positioned himself between the shark and his children, using his fins to create a barrier. The shark circled them, its eyes cold and calculating. Each pass felt like an eternity, and Peter could sense the shark's growing interest in them. Suddenly, the shark lunged forward, bumping into Peter with its powerful snout. The force of the impact sent him reeling, but he managed to stay afloat. He knew that any sudden movements could trigger a more violent attack. He kept his eyes on the shark, trying to anticipate its next move. Laura held on to Tommy and Lily, urging them to stay close and calm. The children's fear was palpable, but they trusted their parents to guide them to safety. The shark circled back, coming closer to Laura and the kids. Peter's heart pounded as the predator's dorsal fin cut through the water towards them. In a desperate attempt to divert the shark's attention, Peter splashed water towards it, trying to create a distraction. The shark turned its focus back to him, giving Laura and the kids a brief window to swim towards the boat. They moved as quickly as possible, their strokes strong and determined despite the fear gripping them. The bull shark, undeterred, made another pass at Peter. This time it opened its jaws wide, displaying rows of sharp teeth. Peter used his snorkel gear to fend off the shark, pushing it away with all his strength. The shark thrashed, creating bubbles and chaos in the water. Peter felt a sharp pain as the shark's teeth grazed his leg, but he knew he couldn't give up. With every ounce of strength, Peter kicked at the shark, pushing it back momentarily. He took the chance to swim towards his family, who were now just a few meters from the boat. Sensing the retreat, the shark lunged again, aiming for Peter's injured leg. The pain was excruciating, but Peter fought through it, determined to reach his family. Seeing her husband in distress, Laura urged Tommy and Lily to climb onto the boat. She then turned back to help Peter, grabbing a spare snorkel mask to use as a weapon. The shark was relentless, but the combined efforts of Peter and Laura created enough of a deterrent to keep it at bay. Finally, they reached the boat. Peter, bleeding and exhausted, hoisted himself up with Laura's help. The shark made one last attempt to strike, but Laura used the snorkel mask to fend it off, hitting it on the snout. The shark retreated, disappearing into the depths of the ocean. Once on the boat, they quickly bandaged Peter's leg and radioed for help. The ordeal had left them shaken, but they were alive. The boat sped back to Biscayne Bay, where an ambulance awaited to take Peter to the hospital. His injuries were severe but not life-threatening, thanks to the swift actions of his family. A group of friends seeking adventure were drawn to the Bahamas in 2014 by their pristine waters, which acted as if they were sirens calling. Experienced diver Lisa Kendall, who loved diving, persuaded her closest friends, Mark, Jenna, and Alex, to go diving with her for a week in the Abaco Islands. The group was in awe of the breathtaking beauty around them as their chartered boat skimmed across the calm waves. The comparatively untouched paradise known as the Abaco Islands was home to some of the Caribbean's most pristine coral reefs and a wide variety of marine life. As they anchored close to the well-known Pelican Cays, Lisa, the enthusiastic traveler, could not contain her excitement. She had long wanted to visit this reef system, which was well known for its colorful coral gardens and profusion of tropical fish. After properly inspecting their equipment and reviewing their dive plan, the four friends descended into the blue depths. The captivating kaleidoscope of colors and marine life greeted them as they glided through the water. With her mask tucked in tight, Lisa couldn't help but smile when a school of iridescent angelfish scuttled by her, their vivid colors reflecting in the filtered sunlight. Jenna laughed softly as Mark, ever the joker, imitated the movements of a passing parrotfish. Awestruck by the fragility and utter beauty of this underwater world, the group continued to explore deeper into the reef. Ever the naturalist, Lisa pointed out various species to her friends, her excitement palpable even through the regulator clamped between her teeth. At that moment, Lisa noticed a flash of silver scuttling between the coral formations at a breakneck pace. With a furrowed brow, she observed the movement and attempted to identify the culprit. The sleek, torpedo-shaped creature abruptly materialized out of the darkness, revealing itself as a massive barracuda, a vicious predator with a reputation for aggression. With a startling intensity, Lisa's heart rate increased while she observed the immobile barracuda staring at her with a cold, unwavering eye. Lisa automatically signaled her friends to let them know there might be a threat. Mark, who has always been cautious, quickly drew the group closer together while keeping an eye out for any potential threats. For a moment, the barracuda seemed content to observe its powerful jaws opening and closing from a distance in a silent display of dominance. Lisa started to back away cautiously, her nerves tingling. Drawn to her reflective dive gear, the barracuda's attitude abruptly changed. The predator surged forward with a sudden burst of speed, its silver body cutting through the water like a razor-sharp blade. Lisa barely had time to react as the barracuda's jaws clamped down on her upper arm, its razor-sharp teeth slicing through her wetsuit and flesh with horrifying ease, leaving her with deep wounds. Lisa's body seized in pain, a cloud of crimson exploding from the wound as she let out a muffled scream. As their friend was attacked, Mark, Jenna, and Alex watched in horror. A rush of adrenaline-fueled action soon followed their initial shock. Drawing on his years of diving experience, Mark immediately positioned himself between Lisa and the barracuda, his dive knife ready. The barracuda, undeterred by Mark's protective stance, seemed intent on finishing its attack. As it readied itself, its formidable jaws parted to expose rows of razor-sharp teeth. In a split-second decision, Mark lashed out with his knife, the blade slicing through the water and grazing the barracuda's flank. The predator recoiled, its cold black eyes betraying a momentary flicker of confusion. It retreated, appearing to have conceded defeat. Taking advantage of the brief respite, Jenna and Alex quickly moved to Lisa's side, their hands applying pressure to the gaping wound in a desperate attempt to stem the flow of blood. Lisa's face was etched with pain, her eyes wide and pleading as she fought to remain conscious. Mark gestured for them to start climbing, his movements slow and methodical as the barracuda regrouped. With Lisa supported between Jenna and Alex, the group began their slow, painful journey towards the surface, their eyes darting back and forth, ever vigilant for the slightest hint of the barracuda's return. The minutes seemed to stretch into hours as they rose through the azure depths, the weight of their tanks and the fear of another attack weighing heavily upon them. Lisa's breathing grew increasingly labored, her mask fogging with each pained exhalation. After what seemed like an eternity, they finally surfaced in the warm Bahamas air, a welcome respite from their faces dusted with salt. Mark called out for help with a hoarse voice and quickly gestured to their dive boat. The crew moved quickly to save Lisa, bringing the injured group aboard and launching themselves at her. The extent of Lisa's injuries was painfully obvious, as the boat captain radioed for emergency medical assistance. Her upper arm and shoulder were severely injured by the barracuda attack, revealing slashes that were bleeding profusely and showing hints of muscle and bone. The adrenaline that had fueled Lisa's survival instincts started to wear off, leaving her face pale and her eyes glassy with shock. The dive gear was lying in a heap on the deck as the group gathered around their injured friend, counting down the minutes. As they awaited the arrival of the medical evacuation team, Mark held Lisa tightly, his hands still stained with her blood, and spoke encouraging words to her. Jenna and Alex, their eyes haunted by the attack, could only watch in disbelieving silence as their minds replayed the horrific events. Relief washed over the group when the rescue helicopter finally appeared on the horizon, its blades slicing through the air. Lisa was quickly loaded into the helicopter, her pale form vanishing inside as it took off toward the nearest hospital. In the days and weeks that followed, Lisa underwent multiple surgeries and physical therapy sessions. Her unwavering will to return to the underwater world that had nearly taken her life kept her resilient spirit strong throughout her recovery, though the scars that marred her body would forever remind her of that fateful day. Lisa wore them as badges of honor, a testament to her resilience and unwavering respect for the ocean and its inhabitants. The sharp edge had etched a path of understanding, teaching Lisa and her companions that true admiration for the environment requires a balanced measure of prudence and reverence. They knew that their love of diving would endure as they looked out over the pristine waters of the Bahamas, tempered by the lessons they had learned from their encounter with the most ferocious predator in the ocean. In the clear, warm waters of the Caribbean near the island of Exuma Cays in the Bahamas, a seasoned free diver named Thomas Reed set out for an underwater filming session on July 15, 2008. The day was perfect for diving, with the sun shining brightly, making the ocean surface sparkle like diamonds. Thomas, a 32-year-old marine videographer, had spent years exploring and documenting the underwater world, but today promised a unique adventure. Thomas had woken up early, eager to capture footage of the vibrant coral reefs and diverse marine life that thrived in the area. He was particularly interested in the predatory species that patrolled these waters, including the barracuda, known for their speed and sharp teeth. These sleek silver fish could grow up to 6 feet long and were often found lurking around reefs, ready to ambush smaller fish with lightning-fast strikes. After a hearty breakfast, Thomas boarded his small boat, the Sea Spirit, and headed towards Crystal Caves, a renowned dive spot famous for its underwater caverns and rich marine biodiversity. By mid-morning, he had anchored his boat and prepared his gear. He donned his wetsuit, checked his camera, and ensured his equipment was in top condition. The reflective parts of his gear, designed to catch the light and enhance his footage, were particularly prominent today. As he slipped into the water, Thomas was immediately struck by the clarity and warmth of the sea. He descended slowly, adjusting his camera to capture the stunning underwater landscape. Schools of colorful fish darted around him, and the coral formations teemed with life. It was a diver's paradise, and Thomas was in his element. He swam deeper, aiming to explore a section of the reef known for its barracuda sightings. These predators fascinated Thomas, not just because of their fearsome reputation, but also because of their role in maintaining the health of the reef ecosystem. They were apex predators, controlling the smaller fish population and helping keep the reef balanced. Thomas's day had been going smoothly. He had already captured some incredible footage of the reef and its inhabitants. As he approached the deeper part of the reef, he noticed a slight change in the water's hue, indicating he was nearing a school of barracudas. His heart raced excitedly at the prospect of filming these majestic predators up close. Barracudas were known for their curiosity, especially toward shiny objects. Their sleek silver bodies made them masters of camouflage in the open water, and they could accelerate quickly to snatch prey. Thomas knew the risks but felt confident in his experience and knowledge of barracuda behavior. He moved slowly and steadily, making sure not to make any sudden movements that might startle the fish. As he filmed, he marveled at the barracuda's grace and agility. They were like underwater torpedoes, moving with a speed and precision that was both beautiful and intimidating. Thomas kept his distance, knowing that while barracudas were not typically aggressive towards humans, they could become dangerous if provoked. While engrossed in his filming, Thomas noticed a sudden shift in the barracuda's behavior. The school, swimming calmly, began to close in around him. Their curiosity had turned to something more intense, and Thomas realized with a jolt that the reflective parts of his gear were attracting them more than he had anticipated. The barracudas started circling him, their sharp teeth glinting in the light. Thomas's pulse quickened. He knew he had to act fast to avoid a potential attack. Keeping calm was crucial, as panic could provoke the barracudas further. He slowly reached for the reflective pieces of his gear, removing them one by one. Each motion was deliberate, minimizing sudden movements that might trigger the predators. Despite his careful actions, the barracudas grew bolder. One darted closer, its teeth flashing dangerously close to Thomas's leg. He felt a rush of adrenaline, knowing he was in a precarious situation. He continued to strip away the shiny objects, each second feeling like an eternity. With the last reflective gear removed, Thomas hoped the barracudas would lose interest, but the situation remained tense. The fish, now agitated, kept their tight formation around him. Thomas knew he had to start his ascent to the surface slowly. Rapid movements could escalate their aggression. He began his ascent, moving as smoothly as possible. The barracudas followed, their eyes fixed on him. Thomas's mind raced with strategies to deter them, recalling everything he knew about their behavior. He appeared as non-threatening as possible, keeping his arms close to his body and avoiding eye contact with the fish. As he ascended, he used his camera to create a barrier between him and the barracudas. Though no longer extended recording, the device served as a physical buffer. The predators continued to circle, but their strikes were now less frequent. Thomas's slow, controlled movements were paying off, but he knew he wasn't safe yet. The ascent seemed to take forever, but finally the surface was in sight. The barracudas began to peel away, losing interest as Thomas neared the boat. He felt a surge of relief but remained cautious. Reaching the ship, he pulled himself up quickly, his body shaking with the effort and the remnants of fear. Once aboard, Thomas took a moment to catch his breath and process what had happened. The ordeal had been a stark reminder of the ocean's unpredictable nature. He was safe, but the encounter left him deeply aware of the fine line between wonder and danger in the underwater world. The footage he captured that day would tell a story of the beauty of the barracudas and serve as a testament to the delicate balance of respect and caution required when exploring their realm. The world's most prestigious surfing competition, the Vans Triple Crown of Surfing, was scheduled in 2015 on the waves of Oahu's renowned North Shore. With their boards ready and eyes trained on the rolling monsters that crashed against the shoreline with thunderous precision, surfers from all over the world had descended upon this idyllic Hawaiian island. One of the competitors was Californian surfer Jake Thompson, a 25-year-old professional known as a rising sports star due to his raw talent and fearless style on the waves. Jake's sun-kissed complexion and tousled blonde hair epitomized the surfer lifestyle, and his life was completely entwined with the tides. The atmosphere was charged with excitement as the competition got underway, and the smell of salt water blended with the applause of those gathered along the shore. As he approached the water's edge with his board tucked under his arm, Jake's eyes were fixed on the horizon where the perfect waves towered, calling out to him to conquer them. He had no idea that an ancient predator was stirring beneath the surface. Its icy black eyes focused on the masses of surfers bobbing in the water like bright buoys. Due to its refined instincts from millions of years of evolution, the great white shark, a real ocean apex predator, was attracted to the disturbance. The excitement pumping through Jake was evident as he paddled out into the lineup. He skillfully kicked his legs to get up and ride the first set of waves, which came in a smooth and effortless motion as his board skimmed the water. Jake's every move demonstrated his mastery of the sport as the crowd's roar subsided, and he became engrossed in the rhythm of the waves. However, thanks to its strong tail, the great white shark was moving through the water at a terrifyingly fast speed beneath the surface. Its keen senses honed to pick up even the smallest disturbance in the water, which had locked onto the surfers splashing and paddling, setting off an innate reaction to investigate. Jake saw the world around him turn into a tunnel of sun and churning water as he dove into the mouth of a particularly big wave. At that very moment when he was most exposed, the unimaginable occurred. Something huge and dark rose out of the darkness, snarling with open jaws as it lunged toward Jake's bare leg. With frightening ease, the great white shark's razor-sharp teeth tore through flesh and bone in a blur of movement. As its strong jaws clenched tighter, ripping at Jake's flesh, his body jerked violently, drowning out his cries of agony. The once pristine waters erupted into a crimson foam, filling the air with the distinct smell of blood. The attack was being carried out right in front of the horrified onlookers on the shore. With their rescue boards slicing through the waves, lifeguards rushed to the injured surfer. Competitors with terrified expressions paddled frantically towards the scene, their minds fixed on a single last-ditch effort to save a friend and fellow surfer from the jaws of death. With shock and pain clouding his mind, Jake used his strength to fight back. In a desperate attempt to free himself, he struck out at the massive shark, his fists pounding its sleek gray skin. The great white's hold was unbreakable, its instincts heightened by the blood in the water. Just as hope seemed lost, Jake's fellow surfers arrived, using their boards as battering rams against the shark. Distracted, the great white thrashed violently, briefly releasing Jake's mangled leg. The lifeguards came charging in at that split second, their strong blows sending them flying toward Jake's mangled body. They hauled him onto a rescue board with a coordinated effort, their expressions somber as they realized how badly injured he was. The great white shark lingered in the water as they raced back towards the shore, its inky black eyes displaying no emotion or regret. Silent and a living representation of the ocean's raw, relentless power, it had changed the lives of those who had ventured into its territory. Medical personnel raced to Jake's aid on the beach, putting an end to his bleeding and stabilizing his condition with practiced precision. After realizing the full impact of his encounter with the apex predator, the once vibrant surfer lay pale and motionless, his eyes glazed with shock. Following his ordeal, Jake's story drew significant media attention and widespread public interest in the following days and weeks. He survived against all odds, and his story touched people worldwide as a sobering reminder of how fleeting human existence is in the face of nature's unchecked might. Many surgeries and demanding physical therapy sessions characterized Jake's long and difficult road to recovery. Despite everything, though, his unwavering spirit persisted because of a deep-seated desire to reclaim the waves that had once served as his playground. As Jake recovered emotionally and physically, he struggled to accept his newfound reverence for the sea and its creatures. Once a mysterious, far-off animal, the great white shark had come to represent a visceral reality, constantly reminding us that even the most accomplished and experienced surfers were only temporary guests in the homes of these ancestors. However, Jake's love for the sport didn't lessen despite the trauma he had experienced. His near-death experience had only made him more determined to face his fears head-on and take back his place among the waves. Jake set out on a journey that would push the boundaries of his physical and mental strength with the help of his fellow surfers and the unwavering love of his family. Every paddle out into the lineup was an act of defiance, a declaration that the scars on his body would not define him, a fight against the demons that lurked in the recesses of his mind. Jake had gained a newfound humility and respect for the ocean's raw power, even though the great white shark that had drastically changed his life path continued to loom large in the background of his thoughts. Since his steadfast courage and tenacity had seen him through the worst of his ordeal, these qualities ultimately defined him rather than his fear of the predator. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the azure waters of the Gulf of Mexico as the yacht cut through the calm seas. Jose Lopez leaned against the rail, gazing at the horizon, lost in thought. It was meant to be a peaceful getaway for him and his wife, Carmen, but the undercurrents of their relationship were anything but calm. Jose Lopez and Carmen had been married for 5 years, their bond forged in the fire of mutual ambition and tempered by love. They had built a successful business together, a thriving import-export company that demanded long hours and relentless dedication. Recently, however, cracks have begun to show. Carmen's suspicions had grown like a dark cloud over their marriage, fueled by late nights at the office and business trips that seemed to stretch on endlessly. She had convinced herself that Jose Lopez was unfaithful despite his vehement denials and reassurances. The tension between them had reached a boiling point that afternoon. Carmen's accusations had come fast and furious, her voice trembling with anger and hurt. Jose Lopez, tired of the relentless cycle of doubt and defense, had snapped back, his words sharp and cutting. The argument had escalated until they were both shouting, their faces inches apart, the peaceful surroundings forgotten. In a moment of blind rage, Carmen grabbed a heavy glass decanter and hurled it at Jose. He dove just in time, the decanter shattering against the railing and sending shards of glass into the sea. That was when Carmen's fury turned to reckless action. She had shoved him with all her strength, and before he could react, he was overboard, plunging into the cold, unforgiving waters of the Gulf. The shock of the fall left Jose momentarily stunned. The yacht loomed above him, its sleek white hull glistening in the fading light. He surfaced, gasping for air, and instinctively began to tread water. The realization of his predicament dawned on him with terrifying clarity. The Gulf of Mexico was home to many species of sharks, including the notorious bull shark, known for its aggressive behavior and propensity to inhabit shallow coastal waters. Jose's mind raced as he tried to orient himself. He could see Carmen on the deck, her expression a mix of horror and regret. She was shouting something, but her words were lost in the roar of the wind and the rush of the waves. Desperation surged through him as he scanned the water, praying that the commotion hadn't attracted any predators. But the sea had other plans. A dark shadow moved beneath him, followed by another. Jose Lopez's heart pounded in his chest as he realized he was not alone. A school of bull sharks had been drawn by the splashing and the scent of blood from his minor cuts. Their sleek, muscular bodies glided through the water with deadly grace, their cold eyes fixed on their next meal. Panic threatened to overtake him, but Jose Lopez fought to keep his wits about him. He had read once that thrashing and panicking would only excite the sharks further. He forced himself to move slowly and methodically, trying to present as little threat as possible. His mind raced, searching for a way to fend off the predators. He remembered the small diving knife he always carried on his belt during their boating trips. It was a slim hope, but it was all he had. As the first shark approached, its jaws gaping open, Jose slashed at it with the knife. The blade connected and the shark veered away, but more were coming. He kicked and jabbed, every movement a desperate attempt to keep the creatures at bay. His arms ached and his lungs burned, but the will to survive pushed him beyond his limits. On the yacht, Carmen was frantic. She grabbed an emergency flare gun and fired it into the air, hoping to attract nearby boats. She threw life preservers into the water, praying that Jose could reach them. Her mind raced with guilt and fear, the enormity of her actions crashing down on her. She had let her anger get the best of her, and now the man she loved was fighting for his life. Minutes felt like hours as Jose Lopez struggled against the relentless assault. He managed to fend off several sharks, but exhaustion was setting in. His movements grew sluggish, and the knife felt like a lead weight in his hand. Just when he thought he could hold on no longer, he heard the sound of a boat engine. A small fishing boat appeared, drawn by the flare and the shouts. The crew, seeing the dire situation, sprang into action. They threw a rope ladder over the side, shouting encouragement to Jose Lopez. Summoning the last of his strength, he swam towards the boat, his movements weak and labored. Hands reached down, pulling him aboard just as the sharks made one last desperate lunge. Safe on the deck, Jose collapsed, gasping for breath. The fishermen tended to his wounds, their faces a mix of concern and admiration for his bravery. Carmen watched from the yacht, tears streaming down her face. The fishing boat brought Jose back to the yacht, and Carmen rushed to his side, her heart breaking at the sight of his injuries and exhaustion. The journey back to shore was somber and reflective. The yacht moved slowly, its passengers lost in their thoughts. Jose's body ached, but his mind was clear. He had faced death and survived, and in doing so, he had found a new perspective on what truly mattered. Carmen, too, was changed. She had almost lost the man she loved to her fears and insecurities, and she vowed never to let that happen again. Mario had always been fascinated by the ocean. Born and raised on the coast of Puerto Rico, he spent his childhood exploring the vibrant coral reefs and mysterious underwater caves of the Caribbean. His father had taught him to respect the sea and all its inhabitants, a lesson Mario carried with him every time he ventured into the water. By the time he was 25, Mario had become an accomplished spearfisher, known for his skill and bravery. On a sun-drenched afternoon in mid-July, Mario prepared for another spearfishing expedition. The conditions were perfect: clear skies, calm waters, and visibility that promised an excellent hunt. He gathered his gear, including his trusty spear gun, a well-worn wetsuit, and a small buoy to carry his catch. The boat's engine roared to life as he set out towards one of his favorite spots, a secluded reef teeming with marine life. Reaching his destination, Mario anchored his boat and slipped into the water. The cool embrace of the sea enveloped him as he adjusted his mask and snorkeled, taking a deep breath before diving beneath the surface. The world transformed into a mesmerizing landscape of vibrant corals, swaying sea fans, and schools of shimmering fish. Mario's eyes scanned the reef, searching for signs of his quarry. It didn't take long for him to spot a sizable grouper lurking near a crevice in the coral. With practiced precision, Mario aimed his spear gun and fired, striking the fish cleanly. He swam over to retrieve his catch, the grouper's scales glinting in the sunlight as he secured it to his buoy. Satisfied with his first haul, Mario continued his hunt, moving gracefully through the water. As the afternoon wore on, Mario's buoy grew heavier with each successful strike. He had caught several impressive fish, their scales flashing like underwater jewels. Immersed in the rhythm of the hunt, Mario felt a deep connection to the ocean, a symbiotic dance between predator and prey. Yet amidst the tranquility, he remained vigilant, ever aware of the potential dangers lurking in the depths. It was during one of his dives that Mario first noticed a shadow in his peripheral vision. At first, he dismissed it as a trick of the light or a passing fish. However, as he resurfaced to catch his breath, he caught a glimpse of something large and silvery moving with unsettling speed. His heart rate quickened as he realized what he was seeing: a massive barracuda drawn by the glint of his spear and the struggling fish. Mario's mind raced as he assessed the situation. Barracudas were notorious for their aggressive behavior, especially when provoked or hungry. The shiny spear and the thrashing fish had undoubtedly piqued the predator's interest. Mario knew he needed to act quickly and decisively to avoid a potentially deadly encounter. Instinctively, Mario dropped his buoy, allowing the fish to sink slowly toward the reef. He hoped that the barracuda would be more interested in the easy meal than in him. Simultaneously, he gripped his spear gun tightly, ready to defend himself if necessary. The barracuda's sleek, muscular body cut through the water with alarming speed, its sharp teeth glinting menacingly in the dappled sunlight. Mario remained as still as possible, his eyes locked on the predator. He knew that sudden movements could trigger an attack, so he focused on maintaining a calm, controlled demeanor. The barracuda circled him, its eyes fixed on the shiny spear gun and the fish tethered to the buoy. Mario's mind raced through possible escape routes, weighing his options carefully. With a calculated motion, Mario began to swim backward, keeping his spear gun between himself and the barracuda. He knew that maintaining eye contact was crucial. Turning his back could invite an attack. As he moved, he adjusted his body position to swim on his back, allowing him to keep a close watch on the predator while making his way toward the boat. The barracuda, sensing its potential prey was retreating, lunged forward, aiming for the glinting spear. Mario reacted swiftly, using the spear gun as a defensive tool to create a barrier between himself and the predator. The barracuda's razor-sharp teeth snapped inches from his hand, a reminder of the dire consequences of a miscalculation. Mario's heart pounded in his chest, but he forced himself to remain composed. With each backward stroke, Mario closed the distance between himself and the boat. The barracuda, relentless in its pursuit, continued to dart toward him, drawn by the glimmering spear. Mario used the spear gun to fend off the attacks, redirecting the predator's focus away from his vulnerable body. As Mario neared the boat, he reached up with one hand, gripping the edge of the hull while keeping the spear gun poised defensively. With a final burst of strength, he hauled himself over the side and into the safety of the boat. He collapsed onto the deck, gasping for breath, his heart still racing from the adrenaline-fueled encounter. The barracuda lingered for a moment, its predatory gaze fixed on the boat, before finally swimming away, losing interest in the now inaccessible prey. Mario lay on the deck, the sun warming his skin as he processed the harrowing experience. He knew he had been fortunate to escape unscathed. The encounter could have easily ended in tragedy. As he steadied his breathing and calmed his racing heart, he reflected on the lessons learned from the ordeal. The ocean, with all its beauty and bounty, demanded respect and caution. Even the most skilled diver was not immune to its dangers. After regaining his composure, Mario inspected his gear. The spear gun had served him well, with its sturdy construction and reliable mechanism providing a crucial line of defense. He made a mental note to always carry it, even on the most seemingly routine dives. He also resolved to be more mindful of his catch, ensuring that any fish were secured in a way that minimized their visibility to potential predators. Upon reaching the dock, Mario secured the boat and unloaded his gear, his muscles aching from the exertion. He greeted familiar faces with a nod and a smile, their curiosity piqued by the day's events. Mario shared the tale of his encounter with the barracuda, emphasizing the importance of respect and caution in the unpredictable realm of the sea. The sun rose over the pristine waters of Hawaii, casting a golden hue across the surface of the ocean. The air was filled with the salty tang of seawater and the distant cries of seabirds. Hernandez, Theo, Axel, and Nuno were preparing for a day that promised adventure and exploration. They were a group of friends bonded by a shared love for the underwater world, each bringing a unique skill set to their diving team. Their destination for the day was a renowned dive site off the coast of Maui, known for its vibrant coral reefs and diverse marine life. The group had been planning this trip for months, carefully selecting the perfect time when the weather and ocean conditions were optimal. They had embarked on their journey early in the morning, their excitement palpable as they loaded their gear onto the boat. As they reached the dive site, they performed their pre-dive checks, ensuring that every piece of equipment was functioning perfectly. With a final nod from Hernandez, they slipped into the water one by one, feeling the cool embrace of the ocean. Descending slowly, they marveled at the beauty surrounding them. Schools of brightly colored fish darted in and out of the coral, and the sunlight filtered through the water, creating a shimmering dance of light and shadow. It was a serene and awe-inspiring scene, one that reminded them of why they loved diving. They moved with practiced ease, their movements slow and deliberate to avoid disturbing the delicate marine environment. They had been underwater for about 20 minutes, exploring the intricate coral formations and taking photographs of the abundant sea life. Theo was particularly thrilled with his new underwater camera, which captured stunning images of the reef, while Hernandez kept a watchful eye on the group, ensuring everyone was safe and within sight. It was then that Hernandez noticed a change in the water's rhythm. The fish that had been so abundant began to scatter, their movements frantic and uncoordinated. He felt a slight unease, a sixth sense honed by years of diving. Turning slowly, he saw it, a large tiger shark, its sleek body gliding effortlessly through the water. It was an impressive and intimidating sight, with the shark's distinctive stripes visible even at a distance. Hernandez signaled to the group, catching their attention. They followed his gaze and saw the shark, now circling them with an air of curiosity. Their training kicked in immediately. They knew the importance of remaining calm and avoiding sudden movements. Panic could trigger the shark's predatory instincts, and the last thing they wanted was to provoke it. The group formed a tight circle, their backs to each other, presenting a unified front. They were aware that tiger sharks were known for their aggressive behavior and unpredictable nature. This particular shark seemed more curious than aggressive, but the situation could change in an instant. Hernandez signaled for everyone to begin a slow, controlled ascent. They had to reach the surface, but they needed to do so without drawing the shark's attention. The ascent was agonizingly slow. Every second stretched into an eternity. They moved with the utmost caution, each diver maintaining eye contact with the shark. The tension was palpable. The only sounds were their measured breaths and the rhythmic bubbling of their regulators. The shark continued to circle, its movements graceful yet menacing. Theo, usually the most exuberant of the group, was uncharacteristically quiet. His eyes were wide with fear. Hernandez led the ascent, his calm leadership a beacon of reassurance for the group. They rose gradually, maintaining their formation and avoiding any sudden movements. The shark seemed to be losing interest. Its circles were widening, but they couldn't afford to relax. They were still a considerable distance from the surface, and any mistake could have dire consequences. The water grew lighter as they neared the surface, the sunlight penetrating deeper. The shark's interest appeared to be waning, its circles becoming less frequent. Hernandez felt a glimmer of hope but remained vigilant. They were almost there, but he knew they couldn't let their guard down until they were safely back on the boat. Finally, they broke through the surface, the sunlight blinding after the dim underwater world. They kept their formation, heads swiveling to ensure the shark wasn't following them. The boat was just a short swim away, but they remained cautious. They signaled to the boat crew, who quickly moved to assist them. One by one, they climbed onto the boat, their relief palpable. They watched the water for any sign of the shark, but it seemed to have lost interest and disappeared into the depths. Once they were all aboard, they took a moment to catch their breath and process what had just happened. The tension slowly eased, replaced by a sense of accomplishment and camaraderie. They had faced a potentially dangerous situation and had managed to stay calm and focused. Theo, now recovering from the initial shock, couldn't help but express his amazement at having encountered such a magnificent creature up close. Axel nodded in agreement, his usual stoicism giving way to a rare smile. As the boat made its way back to the shore, the friends reflected on the day's events. They had come face to face with one of the ocean's most formidable predators and had emerged unscathed. It was a reminder of the unpredictable beauty of the underwater world and the importance of respecting its inhabitants. Regina Matthews, a seasoned marine biologist, had always been drawn to the mysteries of the ocean. The Pacific Northwest, with its rugged coastline and rich marine life, was her preferred realm of exploration. She spent countless hours studying the behaviors of marine creatures, documenting their intricate interactions and the delicate balance of their ecosystems. Her research had taken her to many corners of the globe, but the waters off the coast of Washington state held a special place in her heart. On a crisp autumn night, Regina embarked on a nighttime diving expedition with her colleague, Dr. Aaron Blake. The mission was to gather data on the nocturnal activities of various marine species, including the elusive giant Pacific octopus. The conditions were perfect. The sea was calm and the full moon cast a silvery glow over the water, illuminating their path. Equipped with state-of-the-art diving gear and armed with underwater cameras, Regina and Aaron descended into the inky depths. The underwater world was a realm of shadows and fleeting glimpses of life. Bioluminescent organisms glowed like stars in the darkness, and schools of fish darted past, their scales reflecting the moonlight. The pair communicated through a series of hand signals and underwater communication devices, maintaining a careful distance to avoid startling the creatures they observed. Regina's fascination with the giant Pacific octopus stemmed from its intelligence and adaptability. These creatures were known for their remarkable problem-solving abilities and their capacity to camouflage themselves in an instant. Regina had spent years studying their behavior, but there was always more to learn. Tonight, she hoped to capture rare footage of an octopus hunting and feeding at night. As they ventured deeper, the water grew colder, and the light from the surface began to fade. Regina's flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing the rocky seabed and the vibrant marine life that thrived there. She marveled at the sight of a kelp forest, swaying gently in the current. Suddenly, something caught her eye. A large, shadowy figure moved among the rocks, barely visible in the dim light. Regina signaled to Aaron, indicating that she had spotted an octopus. They approached cautiously, keeping their distance to avoid startling the creature. Regina's heart raced with excitement as she adjusted her camera, ready to document the elusive animal's behavior. The octopus was magnificent, its body a blend of mottled browns and reds that allowed it to blend seamlessly with the rocky surroundings. It moved with fluid grace, its tentacles extending and retracting as it explored the crevices of the seabed. Regina was captivated by its movements, each one a testament to the creature's intelligence and adaptability. But as she observed the octopus, something changed. The animal's behavior shifted from calm and inquisitive to agitated and defensive. Its skin darkened, and its tentacles began to writhe more rapidly. Regina felt a surge of adrenaline as she realized the octopus was not just observing her, it was preparing to attack. In an instant, the octopus lunged forward, wrapping its powerful tentacles around Regina's body. The force of the attack knocked the camera from her hands, sending it spiraling into the depths. Regina struggled to free herself, but the octopus's grip was unyielding. Its tentacles constricted around her torso and limbs, pulling her deeper into the ocean. Panic set in as Regina fought for breath. The pressure of the octopus's embrace made it difficult to breathe, and the cold water stung her skin. She reached for her diving knife, her mind racing as she tried to remember the best way to fend off an octopus. She knew that striking at sensitive areas, such as the eyes or the base of its tentacles, could force it to release its grip. With trembling hands, Regina managed to grasp her knife and make a swift, desperate strike. She aimed for the base of the tentacle that encircled her torso, hoping to weaken the octopus's hold. The blade met resistance, but she pressed on, determined to free herself. The octopus recoiled slightly, its grip loosening just enough for Regina to take a gasping breath. But the battle was far from over. The octopus tightened its hold, and Regina felt a sharp pain as one of its suckers latched onto her neck. She struggled to maintain her focus, fighting through the pain and the overwhelming sense of panic. She struck again, this time targeting the octopus's eye. The creature flinched, its body convulsing as it released a cloud of ink in an attempt to escape. The ink cloud enveloped Regina, obscuring her vision and filling the water with a murky haze. She felt the octopus's grip loosen further, and she seized the opportunity to break free. With a final, desperate effort, she wrenched herself from the creature's grasp and swam upward, her lungs burning for air. Regina's vision blurred, and her limbs felt heavy as she struggled to reach the surface. The cold water sapped her strength, and the pain from her injuries made each stroke agonizing. She could hear Aaron's voice through the communication device, calling her name and urging her to hold on. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Regina broke through the surface of the water. She gasped for air, the cool night air filling her lungs and bringing a sense of relief. Aaron was at her side in an instant, his strong arms pulling her onto the dive boat. She collapsed onto the deck, her body trembling with exhaustion and pain. Aaron quickly assessed her injuries, noting the deep bruises and the sucker marks that marred her skin. Regina's breathing was labored, and she winced with each breath. But despite the severity of her injuries, she was alive. Aaron administered first aid, cleaning the wounds and wrapping her in a thermal blanket to ward off hypothermia. As they sped back to shore, Regina's mind raced with thoughts of the encounter. She had always known the risks of deep-sea research, but this experience had brought those dangers into stark relief. The ocean was a realm of beauty and wonder, but it was also a place of untamed power and unpredictable threats. Regina's recovery was slow and painful. The injuries she sustained from the octopus attack left her with lingering pain and difficulty breathing. She underwent physical therapy to regain her strength and mobility, determined to return to the work she loved. Her colleagues and friends rallied around her, offering support and encouragement as she healed. Despite the trauma of the attack, Regina's passion for marine biology remained undiminished. She was more determined than ever to continue her research and to share her findings with the world. She knew that the ocean's mysteries were worth exploring, even in the face of danger. The crisp morning air was filled with anticipation as Miguel, Valentino, and their daughter Bonita set out on their whale-watching adventure. The family had long dreamed of this excursion, hoping to witness the majestic orcas in their natural habitat. Bonita's eyes sparkled with excitement as they boarded a sturdy vessel captained by an experienced and weathered sailor named Captain Lucas. The coast of Washington was renowned for its breathtaking marine life, and on this clear, sunny day, the waters shimmered invitingly. The boat hummed to life, cutting smoothly through the gentle waves as it ventured farther from shore. The passengers, a mix of tourists and local enthusiasts, chatted excitedly, binoculars at the ready. As they sailed deeper into the open ocean, the anticipation built. Captain Lucas, a man with decades of seafaring experience, took the time to explain the orcas' behaviors and the importance of respecting their space. The first sign of the orcas came as a distant spout of water, a plume rising gracefully from the ocean's surface. Bonita pointed excitedly at them, her face a picture of pure joy. Valentino and Miguel leaned over the rail, their faces alight with wonder as well. Captain Lucas steered the boat closer, ensuring they maintained a respectful distance. The orcas began to surface more frequently, their sleek black and white bodies gliding effortlessly through the water. The family watched in awe, captivated by the beauty and grace of these magnificent creatures. Bonita's laughter filled the air as the orcas leaped and played, seemingly putting on a show just for them. For a while, it was as if time stood still. The majesty of the orcas and the serene beauty of the ocean created a perfect moment. However, the mood began to shift when the pod of orcas started exhibiting unusual behavior. One of the larger males slapped its tail forcefully against the water, sending a spray high into the air. Another orca swam closer to the boat, its dorsal fin cutting through the water with an almost menacing precision. Captain Lucas's demeanor changed subtly. His eyes narrowed as he observed the orca's actions. He instructed everyone to stay calm, and the passengers exchanged nervous glances, sensing the tension in the air. The boat rocked slightly as another orca bumped against its hull, producing a low, resonant thud that reverberated through the vessel. Captain Lucas skillfully maneuvered the boat, trying to create distance between them and the increasingly aggressive orcas. The engines roared to life as he attempted to steer away, but the pod seemed intent on following. The once playful giants of the sea now appeared as formidable predators, their sleek bodies moving with a coordinated precision that was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Miguel scanned the horizon, his heart pounding in his chest. He could see no immediate escape, only the vast expanse of the ocean surrounding them. Captain Lucas's face was etched with concentration. He adjusted the throttle and the wheel, trying to outmaneuver the pod. The vessel was sturdy, but it was no match for the power and agility of the orcas. A particularly forceful hit caused the boat to lurch violently, sending passengers sprawling. Miguel grabbed hold of Valentino and Bonita, steadying them against the rail. The sky, so bright and clear moments ago, now felt oppressive. The tension was palpable, each passing second stretching into an eternity. Captain Lucas shouted commands to his crew, their movements quick and efficient as they worked to maintain control. Another slam against the hull echoed through the boat, louder this time, accompanied by a creaking sound that sent a shiver down Miguel's spine. Captain Lucas, eyes sharp and focused, made a split-second decision. He turned the boat sharply, a maneuver that caused the orcas to lose their pursuit momentarily. The boat sped forward, the engines straining under the sudden burst of speed. For a brief moment it seemed they might escape, but the respite was short-lived. The orcas regrouped, their powerful bodies cutting through the water with alarming speed. One of them breached the surface, its immense form casting a shadow over the boat before crashing back into the sea, sending a wave of water over the deck. The force of the splash nearly knocked the passengers off their feet. Desperation tinged Captain Lucas's voice as he communicated with his crew. The boat took another hit, and this one caused a loud crack. Lucas's heart sank as he realized the orcas were damaging the boat. He could see the fear in the passengers' eyes, mirroring his own. They had to find a way out, and quickly. The vessel began to slow, the damage taking its toll. Captain Lucas decided to head toward shallower waters, because the orcas were likely not to follow them into areas where their size would be a disadvantage. Miguel clutched Bonita tightly as the boat changed course. The orcas, relentless in their pursuit, continued to batter the vessel. The shallow waters seemed like a distant hope, but it was their best chance. Captain Lucas pushed the engines to their limits, the boat groaning in protest. Minutes felt like hours as they raced toward the shallows. The orcas' aggression did not wane. Each impact against the hull was a reminder of their peril. Miguel whispered soothing words to Bonita, though his fear gnawed at him. Valentino held on to both of them, her grip firm and steady despite the chaos. As the water grew shallower, the orcas' movements became more erratic. The larger males in particular seemed to hesitate, their massive bodies less agile in the constrained space. Captain Lucas navigated expertly, guiding the boat through the shallows with a skill that spoke to his years of experience. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the orcas began to lose interest. Their movements slowed, and one by one they peeled away, retreating to the deeper waters. The tension on the boat eased slightly, though the relief was tempered by the realization of how close they had come to disaster. As they neared the safety of the coast, the passengers began to speak in hushed tones, sharing their relief and gratitude. Captain Lucas, ever the professional, offered assurances that they would reach land safely. His calm demeanor was a balm to the frayed nerves of those on board. The boat docked, and the family stepped onto solid ground, their legs unsteady. Miguel took a deep breath, the familiar scent of salt water and earth grounding him. Valentino knelt to comfort Bonita, who clung to her mother, her wide eyes still reflecting the fear of their ordeal. The experience had left them shaken, but also with a newfound appreciation for each other and the fragility of life. They had faced the raw power of nature and come through, a testament to their resilience and the skill of those who had guided them. Andrew had always been drawn to the ends of the earth, the places where human presence was rare and nature reigned supreme. As a wildlife photographer, he sought out these remote locations to capture images that told stories of survival, beauty, and the raw power of the natural world. This time, his journey had brought him to the icy expanse of Antarctica, a place where life was both tenacious and precarious. His assignment was to document a penguin colony, a bustling community of emperor penguins nestled against the white canvas of the Antarctic landscape. The colony was a hive of activity, with adults waddling to and fro, chicks huddling for warmth, and the ever-present threat of predators lurking nearby. Andrew was fascinated by the penguins' resilience and their ability to thrive in one of the harshest environments on Earth. After weeks of preparation and a grueling voyage through rough seas, Andrew finally arrived at his destination. The research vessel he was traveling on was anchored at a safe distance from the colony. Andrew and his fellow researchers used inflatable boats to navigate the icy waters and reach the penguin rookery. Each day was a new adventure, filled with hours of waiting for the perfect shot, braving the biting cold and marveling at the wildlife that called this frozen wasteland home. On this particular morning, the weather was clear but bitterly cold. The sky was a brilliant blue, contrasting sharply with the endless white of the ice. Andrew bundled up in his thick, insulated gear, double-checked his camera equipment, and climbed into one of the inflatable boats with his guide, Lars. The engine sputtered to life, and they set off across the water, the boat cutting a narrow path through the thin layer of ice. As they approached the colony, Andrew felt a familiar rush of excitement. He could see the penguins in the distance, their dark forms dotting the ice like ink blots on paper. The boat slowed to a crawl as they neared the edge of the ice shelf. Lars cut the engine and they drifted silently toward the colony. Andrew readied his camera, adjusting the settings and focusing on a group of penguins standing near the water's edge. The morning passed in a blur of activity. Andrew snapped hundreds of photos, capturing the penguins as they went about their daily routines. He watched as they took turns diving into the icy water, their sleek bodies slicing through the waves with grace and agility. Occasionally, a penguin would emerge with a fish clasped in its beak, a testament to its hunting prowess. Lost in his work, Andrew didn't notice the shadow gliding beneath the surface of the water. It was only when the first penguin disappeared in a flurry of bubbles that he realized something was amiss. He scanned the water, his heart pounding in his chest. Lars, sensing the tension, quickly let him know it was a leopard seal. Andrew's blood ran cold. Leopard seals were apex predators known for their powerful jaws and aggressive behavior. They were the undisputed rulers of these waters, capable of taking down prey much larger than a penguin. Andrew had heard stories of their ferocity, but he had never encountered one up close. The seal surfaced a few meters away, its sleek, spotted body glistening in the sunlight. It was enormous, at least 12 feet long, with a head that looked almost too large for its body. Its dark eyes locked onto Andrew, and he felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. The seal regarded him with an almost predatory curiosity, as if deciding whether he was a threat or a potential meal. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Then, without warning, the seal lunged. It propelled itself out of the water with astonishing speed, its jaws snapping shut just inches from Andrew's leg. He stumbled backward, barely managing to keep his balance. Lars shouted something, but the words were lost in the roar of the water and the pounding of Andrew's heart. Andrew's first instinct was to retreat to the boat, but the seal was between him and the shore. He knew he had to think fast. He grabbed his camera tripod, wielding it like a makeshift spear. The seal circled him. Its movements were fluid and menacing. Andrew jabbed at it with the tripod, trying to keep it at bay, but the seal was relentless. It charged again, and this time, Andrew wasn't quick enough. The seal's teeth sank into his leg and he cried out in pain. Desperation gave Andrew strength. He swung the tripod with all his might, striking the seal on the snout. The seal released him with a snarl, retreating momentarily. Blood seeped through Andrew's thermal pants, staining the ice beneath him. He knew he didn't have much time. The seal would be back and he couldn't afford another attack. Using the tripod for support, Andrew hobbled toward the boat. Each step was agony, but he forced himself to keep moving. Lars was shouting now, urging him on. Andrew could see the inflatable boat bobbing just a few meters away, a beacon of hope in the treacherous waters. With a final, desperate burst of energy, Andrew lunged for the boat. He threw himself over the side, landing in a heap on the cold rubber floor. Lars was already pulling the engine cord, and the boat roared to life. The seal made one last attempt, surging forward and snapping at the boat's stern, but it was too late. The boat sped away, leaving the enraged predator behind. Andrew lay on the floor, gasping for breath. Pain radiated from his leg, but he knew he was lucky to be alive. Lars glanced back, his face pale, as he voiced the need to get back to the ship and treat Andrew. The journey back to the vessel was a blur of pain and cold. Andrew's leg throbbed with each jolt of the boat, and he felt the world around him start to fade. He clung to consciousness, focusing on the rhythmic thrum of the engine and the distant outline of the ship. By the time they reached the vessel, he was barely aware of his surroundings. Strong hands lifted him from the boat, and he felt himself being carried across the deck. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, their faces etched with concern. Andrew was rushed to the ship's infirmary, where a medic immediately set to work on his leg. The wound was deep, but fortunately, it had missed any major arteries or tendons. It would be a long recovery, but he would survive. As he lay on the infirmary bed, drifting in and out of consciousness, Andrew reflected on the events of the day. He had come to Antarctica to capture the beauty of the natural world, but instead, he had come face to face with its brutal reality. The encounter with the leopard seal had been a stark reminder of the dangers that lurked in these remote corners of the earth. On a warm summer day in July 2010, a seasoned scuba diver named David Chen set out to explore the renowned coral reefs in the vibrant waters off the coast of Bali, Indonesia. Bali's reefs are famous for their rich biodiversity, drawing divers from all over the world. The sun shone brightly, casting a golden hue over the clear turquoise waters. David, a 35-year-old marine biologist, had traveled to Bali to study the reef's health and capture footage of its inhabitants. He had started his day early, preparing his gear and reviewing his dive plan. The morning had been uneventful, filled with the usual excitement of exploration. After a light breakfast at his hotel, he went to the dive site, eager to document the underwater world. By mid-morning, David was descending into the warm waters. The reef was alive with activity. Schools of colorful fish darting between corals, and the gentle sway of sea anemones. David marveled at the beauty around him, feeling a sense of peace and connection to the marine life he cherished. As he swam deeper, he focused on capturing the vibrant scenes with his underwater camera. The reef was a maze of corals, sponges, and hidden crevices, home to many creatures, including the elusive moray eel. Moray eels were known for their snake-like bodies and sharp teeth. They often hid in the reef's nooks, coming out to hunt at night. Though generally not aggressive, they could become dangerous if threatened. David's dive was progressing smoothly. He had already filmed several species of fish and corals, adding valuable footage to his collection. He moved carefully, aware of the fragile nature of the reef and its inhabitants. However, as he swam closer to a large coral formation, he accidentally disturbed a hidden moray eel. The eel, startled by the sudden intrusion, shot out of its aperture, its mouth open wide to reveal rows of sharp teeth. David froze, his heart racing as the eel glared at him. He knew he had to stay calm, but the sight of the angry eel sent a jolt of fear through him. He tried to back away slowly, hoping to avoid provoking the creature further. The moray eel, feeling threatened, lunged at David with surprising speed. Its powerful jaws clamped down on his arm, causing a sharp, intense pain. David struggled to pull free, but the eel's grip was firm. He used his other hand to push against the eel, trying to create enough space to escape. The water around him clouded with sand and debris as the struggle continued. David's mind raced as he fought to free himself. He knew he had to avoid panicking. Panicking could worsen the situation, making it harder to think clearly. He focused on his training and experience, using his fins to propel himself backward while fending off the eel with his free hand. The eel released its grip momentarily, only to strike again, this time at his leg. The pain was excruciating, but David knew he had to act quickly. He reached for his dive knife, strapped to his thigh, and used it to gently prod the eel, trying to deter it without causing harm. The eel, finally releasing its grip, retreated into the shadows of the reef. David took the opportunity to swim away, his body throbbing with pain. Navigating the maze-like reef, David was careful to avoid more hidden dangers. Each movement sent waves of pain through his body, but he knew he had to reach the surface. His breathing was rapid, his heart pounding as he ascended slowly, mindful of the need to decompress correctly. As he neared the surface, he saw his dive boat anchored nearby. Relief washed over him, but he remained focused on staying calm and controlled. He signaled for help, and the boat crew quickly assisted him. They pulled him aboard, where he collapsed, exhausted and in pain. The crew administered first aid, treating the bite wounds on his arm and leg. David's mind replayed the encounter with the moray eel, the sudden attack and the desperate struggle to escape. He knew he had been lucky to get away with only minor injuries. Back on land, David received further medical treatment. The experience left him shaken, but made him more aware of the hidden dangers lurking within the beautiful underwater landscapes he loved. In 2012, Sarah Williams became enthralled with the remote wilderness's untamed beauty and the Australian outback's scorching heat, where the sun's unrelenting rays baked the earth into a dusty crimson hue. Experienced in wildlife photography, she followed her family into this harsh terrain to capture the place's untamed beauty on camera. Sarah, her spouse, Michael, and their two kids, Emma and Jake, had set out on an experience unmatched by anything else. They were now on the outskirts of Katherine, a small town in the Northern Territory, known for being close to the well-known Nitmiluk National Park. Sarah's camera became her constant companion as they strolled through the park's winding trails and breathtaking gorges, capturing the minute details of the old rock formations and the vivid colors of the native flora. But a specific waterhole had caught her attention, tucked away in a quiet park area. The waterhole, a holdover from the prehistoric era, was reportedly home to a wide variety of fauna, among them the powerful saltwater crocodile, a living fossil from the era of the dinosaurs. Sarah saw a chance to capture these ancient predators in their native environment and was not deterred by possible risks. A particularly hot afternoon brought the family to the waterhole, where the soft sound of cicadas and the aroma of eucalyptus filled the air. With her camera ready, Sarah walked excitedly up to the water's edge, her eyes searching the still surface for any movement. Before her eyes, waiting patiently for its next meal, was a massive saltwater crocodile, its scales gleaming like emerald armor, submerged beneath the gloomy depths. After millions of years of evolution, its innate instincts had sharpened, making it an expert at ambush and stealth. Her family watched from a distance, amazed at Sarah's commitment to getting the ideal shot as she edged closer. Sarah leaned forward, her camera focused on the waterhole, and the crocodile struck in that split second. The behemoth emerged from its watery lair with a thunderous burst of water and a gaping maw of sharp teeth, its powerful jaws crushing Sarah's leg to the bone. Like a gunshot, the excruciating cry that broke free of her lips reverberated throughout the outback. The children and Michael were horrified to witness Sarah being forcefully pulled into the water, her attempts at resistance being in vain due to the crocodile's tremendous strength. The once placid waterhole turned into a vortex of flailing limbs and churning water, as Sarah struggled mightily to escape the creature's vice-like hold. For the Williams family, time appeared to stop at that precise moment, their hearts thumping with fear as they saw the unimaginable happen before them. Taking advantage of his strong paternal instincts, Michael searched for anything that could be used as a weapon against the intimidating predator. Emma and Jake clung to each other, their eyes fixed on the terrifying scene before them, their faces scarred with fear. They stood by helplessly as their mother's cries became weaker and weaker by the moment. Michael's mind was racing with fear and determination, as he grabbed a sturdy branch and charged toward the water's edge, driven by pure desperation and adrenaline. He threw the makeshift weapon at the crocodile, using all the strength he could muster, and it hit its armored hide with a loud thud. The crocodile's hold broke for a split second, giving Sarah the chance to gasp for air, her face twisted in pain and desperation. However, this brief respite was short-lived as the furious reptile intensified its efforts, thrashing its strong tail angrily against the water's surface. Sarah and her husband met eyes in that breathtaking moment, and their gaze spoke a lifetime of love, fear, and the unspoken vow that they would never give up. Michael resumed his assault with improvised weapons with a fresh lease of resolve, each blow motivated by the unwavering will to defend his family. The crocodile's primitive instincts started to falter as the fight weakened its iron hold on Sarah. Seeing her chance, Sarah mustered all her remaining strength, her limbs burning from the effort as she struggled against the crocodile's vice-like jaws. She reached for a branch. Meanwhile, Michael, desperate to help, clasped his hands around the branch and used it as a lever to pry open the crocodile's enormous maw. Sarah wrenched her broken leg free, sending a trail of blood into the swirling water with a sickening crunch of bone, and a scream that ripped through the outback, waded into the shallows and hauled Sarah's battered body towards the safety of the shore. Michael felt both relief and terror in his heart. With tears streaming down their faces, Emma and Jake ran to their mother's side, their tiny hands shaking as they held on to her. The massive crocodile form lingered in the waterhole, staring at the family with a primitive, ancient intensity, its reptilian gaze fixed upon them. At that precise moment, the predator and its prey shared a silent understanding of the precarious balance between the wild landscape and the human world. Fearing for Sarah's life, the family's priorities shifted to survival, with their minds racing to devise a plan to get out of the dangerous outback and get Sarah some help. They rushed her to the nearest medical center, where doctors tried as much as possible to tend to her wound and wrapped her leg with a clean bandage. This had set her journey for recovery. Sarah came away from the experience with a deep appreciation for life's fragility and a newfound respect for the wild majesty of the ordeal. Being attacked by a crocodile had made her less obsessed with getting the ideal shot. It served as a stark reminder that even the most skilled photographers were only guests in the territory of these extinct beasts. From the ordeal, the family discovered that their encounter with the crocodile had a lasting impact on them. The scars engraved in their souls would continue to remind them of nature's untamed power and apathy, even after Sarah's wounds healed. With a deep reverence for the wild beauty of the outback and its ferocious inhabitants, the Williams family would often narrate their story of survival in the years that followed. It also gave them a greater appreciation for the unbreakable family ties forged in the furnace of adversity, even though the crocodile attack had left them completely shaken. Because they had overcome the overwhelming force of nature, they had become a symbol of the human spirit's resiliency, a spirit that would bear the scars of their outback nightmare and the lessons they had learned from facing the primordial forces that lurked outside the bounds of civilization. In the early hours of a spring morning on April 14, 2006, a team of marine biologists embarked on a deep-sea expedition off the coast of Japan. The sun had yet to rise and the sea was calm, casting an eerie stillness over the waters. The mission was to study the elusive giant squid, a creature rarely seen by humans and shrouded in mystery. The team consisted of Dr. Nathan Lee, a 45-year-old marine biologist with decades of experience, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a 38-year-old Japanese expert in deep-sea creatures, and Alex Kim, a 30-year-old technician responsible for operating the submersible. They were all aboard Ocean Explorer's research vessel, anchored near a deep trench known for its rich biodiversity. The giant squid, known for its massive size and powerful tentacles, was a subject of fascination and fear. These creatures could grow up to 43 feet in length and were known to inhabit the darkest depths of the ocean. The team was eager to gather data and samples that could shed light on the life and habits of these enigmatic giants. The day had begun with meticulous preparations. Dr. Lee and Dr. Tanaka reviewed the mission plan while Alex conducted final checks on the submersible deep diver. The submersible was equipped with advanced technology, including high-definition cameras, robotic arms, and a reinforced hull designed to withstand the immense pressure of the deep sea. At 8 a.m., the team descended into the depths, leaving behind the bright surface world. As they ventured more profoundly, the water grew darker and the temperature dropped. The submersible's lights cut through the blackness, revealing a world few had ever seen. Strange and beautiful creatures drifted past, their bioluminescent bodies glowing in the dark. Dr. Lee and Dr. Tanaka marveled at the sights, their excitement palpable. They communicated through headsets, sharing observations and coordinating their tasks. Alex skillfully maneuvered the submersible, ensuring they stayed on course and avoided obstacles. The descent was smooth and the team felt a sense of awe and anticipation. By mid-morning, they had reached their target depth of 3,000 feet. The ocean floor was barren, dotted with strange, alien-looking creatures. The team began working, collecting samples and recording data. They were focused and efficient, each member playing a crucial role in the mission's success. As they explored, Dr. Tanaka spotted something in the distance. Using the submersible's lights, they illuminated a large shape moving in the dark waters. It was a giant squid, its long tentacles trailing behind it as it swam gracefully through the depths. The sight was breathtaking, and the team felt a rush of excitement. They had found what they were looking for. Dr. Lee directed Alex to move closer, and they watched in awe as the giant squid came into full view. The creature was magnificent, its eyes reflecting the light from the submersible. It hovered in the water, seemingly unbothered by their presence. The team began to collect data, capturing footage and observing the squid's movements. Everything was going according to plan, and the mood inside the submersible was one of triumph. They had achieved their goal, and the data they were gathering would be invaluable. But the tranquility of the moment was short-lived. Without warning, the giant squid changed its demeanor, its tentacles spreading wide as it moved toward the submersible with alarming speed. The giant squid's sudden aggression caught the team off guard. Its tentacles, each lined with powerful suckers, wrapped around the submersible, shaking it violently. Dr. Lee, Dr. Tanaka, and Alex were thrown against their seats, their hearts pounding with fear. The submersible creaked under the immense pressure, and alarms blared as the tentacles tightened their grip. Alex struggled to maintain control of the submersible, his hands moving quickly over the controls. The squid's grip was relentless, and the submersible rocked back and forth, making it challenging to stay steady. Dr. Lee and Dr. Tanaka worked frantically to assess the situation, checking systems and looking for a way to escape the creature's grasp. The squid's tentacles pressed against the windows, its massive eyes peering inside. The team could see the sharp beak at the center of its tentacles, a reminder of their danger. They knew that if the squid managed to breach the hull, their chances of survival would be slim. Dr. Tanaka suggested using the submersible's robotic arms to fend off the squid. Alex activated the arms, maneuvering them to push against the tentacles. The squid responded with even greater force, tightening its grip. The submersible's structure groaned under the pressure, and the team felt a surge of panic. Dr. Lee, thinking quickly, directed Alex to activate the submersible's lights to their maximum brightness. The sudden burst of light startled the squid, causing it to loosen its grip momentarily. Seizing the opportunity, Alex engaged the thrusters, propelling the submersible upwards. The squid, momentarily disoriented, struggled to maintain its hold. As they ascended, the squid regained its grip, wrapping its tentacles around the submersible again. The team felt a crushing force, and the submersible's systems began to fail. Dr. Lee and Dr. Tanaka worked desperately to keep the submersible operational, while Alex focused on reaching the surface. The squid's tentacles pressed harder, and the submersible's hull began to crack. Water seeped in, and the team knew they were running out of time. Dr. Lee directed Alex to release the submersible's ballast, a last-ditch effort to break free. The sudden release caused the submersible to surge upwards, the rapid ascent dislodging the squid's tentacles. They shot towards the surface, the water pressure decreasing as they ascended. The submersible shuddered, and the team held their breath, praying it would hold together. The journey felt like an eternity, but finally they breached the surface, the bright light of day flooding the cabin. The crew of the Ocean Explorer quickly moved to retrieve the damaged submersible. Dr. Lee, Dr. Tanaka, and Alex emerged, shaken but alive. Their colleagues, who had witnessed the harrowing ascent from the deck, greeted them with relief and concern. Back on the ship, the team assessed the damage. The submersible was severely battered, but their collected data was intact. The attack had left them with a deep sense of respect for the power of the giant squid and the dangers of the deep sea. They had faced a terrifying ordeal, but their quick thinking and teamwork had saved their lives. The year was 2011. An astounding assemblage of aquatic creatures inhabited the immaculate waters of the San Juan Islands, tucked away in the center of the Pacific Northwest. Here, pods of orcas, the top predators in the ocean, roamed free amid the maze-like islands and inlets, their eerie cries resonating above the water like age-old melodies. Marine biologist Dr. Emily Foster spent her life delving into the secrets of these magnificent animals, and she chose to do so in these waters. Her research ship, the Oceanic Explorer, had become a well-known sight in the area as its scientists and researchers diligently recorded the habits and migration patterns of the local orca populations. Emily and her crew left Friday Harbor on a brisk fall morning focused on a particularly interesting pod acting aggressively in strange ways. A strong male orca was among the group, its enormous dorsal fin slicing through the water like a black dagger, a vivid reminder of these animals' unadulterated strength. Emily's sharp eyes peered over the horizon as the Oceanic Explorer approached the pod's last known location, her mind whirling with ideas and conjectures regarding the orca's behavior. At that moment, she noticed the distinctive mist spouts rising to the surface, indicating the pod's presence. Emily skillfully maneuvered the research vessel closer, while her team hurriedly set up their hydrophones and underwater cameras. To solve the mysteries beneath the surface, it was important to track the orca's movements and vocalizations by closely monitoring them, while also cataloging their sounds. But as the team approached, they were met with a startling sight. The large male orca displayed new wounds and scars, suggesting it had recently become entangled in fishing nets or other marine debris. When Emily understood the possible repercussions of such an encounter, her heart fell, and she made assumptions about the orca's unpredictable behavior. Determined to collect as much information as possible without upsetting the already agitated animal, she gave her team orders with steely determination. She had no idea that her presence alone had started a series of events that would push her survival instincts to the absolute limit. As it approached, the male orca abruptly turned its massive bulk toward the Oceanic Explorer, its inky black eyes fixed upon the intruders with an unmistakable fury. The once calm waters erupted into chaos as the orca lunged forward, its strong tail accelerating at an incredible rate. The giant struck the side of the research ship, sending shockwaves through the hull and hurling Emily and her crew around in fright. Emily and her crew watched in dismay as this happened. The Oceanic Explorer tipped dangerously to one side, water leaking through the massive hole caused by the orca's attack. Alarms went off, and equipment clattered to the deck. Emily was thrown overboard amid the chaos, her body falling into the frigid waters as the damaged research ship sank below the surface. Her lungs burned for air as she was trapped in a world of muffled silence for a terrifying moment due to the shock of the freezing temperature. She broke the surface, gasping and spitting, and it was painfully obvious how serious things were for her. The Oceanic Explorer vanished, engulfed by the depths, and the resentful male orca was now obsessed with her, a solitary, defenseless victim in its territory. Emily started swimming with a strong and deliberate stroke, trying to get as far away from the furious predator as she could, all while feeling a rush of adrenaline pumping through her body. However, the orca was unrelenting, its massive body effortlessly slicing through the water to close the distance with every passing second. Emily's mind was racing a whirlwind of scientific knowledge and survival techniques. She knew that orcas were social, intelligent animals pursuing their prey with purpose and cooperation. This lone male had deviated from the norm, motivated by pain and rage, and now it was coming after her. Emily knew she had to move quickly as the orca approached her, its enormous jaws opening wide to reveal a maw of razor-sharp teeth. Her fingers numb from the cold water, she reached for the emergency signaling device strapped to her life vest with shaking hands. She turned on the gadget, hoping that by doing so, the nearby Coast Guard station would receive a distress signal in her last-ditch attempt to live. Emily knew that time was running out even as the beacon continued to pulse and transmit her coordinates to the rescue teams. With terrifying ease, the orca parted the waves as it sprang forward, eyes fixed on Emily's struggling body. She was only inches from the water when the predator lunged, its enormous jaws clenching down on the water. Her muscles burned from fighting the relentless currents and the constant threat of the orca's next attack. Emily screamed, concentrating even harder on swimming. The creature circled her like a shark playing with its prey, its powerful tail slapping against the water in a display of dominance as if reveling in her fear. Emily felt weaker as the minutes passed, each seeming to last forever. She felt her body lose heat from the cold, and the orca's unceasing fear weakened her resolve. Her life would be taken by the very animal she had devoted her professional life to studying, and she would perish from the elements if help did not come quickly. The sound of sirens wailing in the distance announced the arrival of the Coast Guard, just when all hope appeared to be lost. The sight of the rescue boats and their crews ready to cut through the waves gave Emily a newfound sense of resolve. Aware of the impending danger, the orca briefly abandoned its chase, its massive body sliding beneath the surface as though deciding what to do next. Emily grabbed hold of the chance, her blows becoming more powerful as she struggled to get closer to the rescue boats. In a desperate final push, she summoned every ounce of her remaining strength, her lungs burning as she propelled herself towards the outstretched hands of the Coast Guard crew. She was hauled aboard with a well-timed heave, and as the adrenaline that had powered her escape finally subsided, her body collapsed onto the deck. Emily took one last eerie look in the direction of the orca's disappearance as the rescue boats left the scene. She realized at that instant the true extent of her opponent's rage, which was motivated by pain and desperation rather than hate. The orca's body was scarred, a stark reminder of the precarious equilibrium between humans and the natural world. The nets and debris had upset this equilibrium, causing the orca's great suffering. In the days and weeks that followed, Emily's terrifying experience catalyzed heightened conservation efforts and public awareness of the harm that human activity causes to marine life. Her narrative of overcoming overwhelming odds to survive struck a chord with people everywhere, acting as a moving reminder that human deeds have the power to weaken even the most powerful predators. The experience permanently altered Emily's soul. After witnessing the orca's raw strength and primal rage, she had a newfound respect for the animals she had devoted her life to researching. And because the orcas had shown her the true cost of human indifference, she knew her commitment to protecting these wonders would not falter as she looked across the vast Pacific. On a warm summer day, June 12, 2001, off the coast of South Africa, a small, quiet beach named Shimmering Cove was bustling with tourists. The beach, known for its clear waters and golden sands, was a popular spot for families looking for a peaceful escape. The waters of Shimmering Cove were teeming with life. Dolphins often leaped from the waves, and colorful fish swam close to the shore. However, lurking in the deeper waters were the great white sharks, apex predators known for their size and power. Tom Anderson, a seasoned sailor, decided to take his daughter Emily on a boating trip. Tom was an adventurous man, always seeking excitement. Emily, at 16, shared her father's love for the sea but was more cautious. She had grown up listening to her father's stories of the ocean and its creatures. The day started early. Tom and Emily loaded their small boat with supplies, sunscreen, and a picnic basket filled with sandwiches and fruit. They set sail as the sun began to rise, casting a golden glow over the water. The boat cut through the waves effortlessly, and they soon found themselves far from the shore. They dropped anchor in a calm spot, and Tom pointed out the various marine life that swam around the boat. Emily marveled at the sight of a pod of dolphins in the distance. The morning passed peacefully. They enjoyed their lunch, and Tom shared more stories of his sailing adventures. Emily listened intently, occasionally glancing at the water to see if she could spot any more dolphins or fish. Sharks were a common sight in these waters, but they usually stayed away from boats and humans. Great white sharks were especially prevalent in this region. They were powerful hunters, capable of sensing blood in the water from miles away. These predators played a crucial role in the marine ecosystem, maintaining the balance by preying on seals and other marine animals. Despite their fearsome reputation, shark attacks on humans were rare. Most sharks did not see humans as prey. As the afternoon wore on, Tom had an idea. In a moment of poor judgment, he decided to play a prank on Emily. It was meant to be a harmless joke, a way to inject a bit of excitement into their day. Tom waited for the right moment and then, with a mischievous grin, pushed Emily into the water. The water was cold, and shock ran through Emily's body as she surfaced, gasping for air. The look of confusion and fear on her face made Tom laugh, but his laughter died quickly when he saw the telltale fins breaking the surface around her. Great white sharks had sensed the commotion. They began to circle Emily, their sleek, powerful bodies gliding through the water with ease. Tom's heart pounded in his chest. Panic set in. He leaned over the side of the boat, reaching out to Emily and asking her to go back to the boat. But Emily was frozen in terror. The first shark made its move, darting towards Emily with incredible speed. Its jaws snapped shut inches from her leg. Tom grabbed a paddle and swung it wildly at the shark, trying to fend it off. The shark swam away, but others took its place, their eyes cold and calculating. Tom's hands trembled as he struggled to pull Emily back to the boat. The sharks grew bolder, brushing against her legs and nipping at her feet. Blood began to tint the water, and the shark's movements became more frenzied. Tom knew he had to act fast. He leaned further over the edge, stretching his arms as far as they would go. His fingers brushed against Emily's, and with a surge of adrenaline, he grabbed her wrist and pulled with all his strength. Emily's screams echoed across the water as the sharks closed in. One of them lunged, sinking its teeth into her leg. She kicked wildly, her eyes wide with pain and terror. Tom fought to keep his grip on her, his muscles straining with the effort. Finally, with one last, desperate pull, Tom managed to haul Emily over the side of the boat. She collapsed on the deck, sobbing and clutching her bleeding leg. The sharks circled the boat, their eyes fixed on their escaping prey. Tom didn't waste a second. He started the engine and sped towards the shore, the boat bouncing over the waves. Emily's cries of pain filled the air, but Tom couldn't afford to stop. He had to get her to safety. They reached the shore, and Tom carried Emily to the nearest lifeguard station. Paramedics arrived quickly and began treating her injuries. Tom watched helplessly as they worked, his mind racing with guilt and fear. Emily's leg was severely injured, but she was alive. The paramedics stabilized her and rushed her to the hospital. In the aftermath of the attack, Tom was consumed with guilt. He replayed the events over and over in his mind, haunted by the sight of the shark circling his daughter. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had failed her. Emily underwent multiple surgeries to repair the damage to her leg. The physical wounds would heal, but the emotional scars would take much longer. Tom struggled to come to terms with what had happened. He sought counseling and spent countless hours researching shark behavior, trying to understand what had gone wrong. He learned that sharks were attracted to the vibrations and sounds of splashing in the water, which could mimic the movements of their natural prey. Emily faced a long road to recovery. She attended physical therapy sessions and slowly regained the strength in her leg. The memory of the attack lingered, but she was determined not to let it define her. She returned to the water, this time with a new respect for the ocean and its inhabitants. The day that began as a fun outing had turned into a nightmare. Tom's prank had gone horribly wrong, but in the end it brought father and daughter closer together. In 2016, those who dared to venture into the enigmatic depths of Puget Sound, tucked away in the heart of the Pacific Northwest, were rewarded with chilly waters. Among the adventurous souls drawn to these cold currents was Tom Wilkins, an avid recreational diver with a thirst for discovery. On a crisp autumn morning, Tom suited up on the sun-dappled shores of Edmonds, a quaint coastal town known for its abundant marine life and access to rich diving spots. His excitement grew as he fastened his mask and tank, anticipating today's dive, which promised a face-to-face encounter with the enormous Pacific octopus, one of the area's most mysterious creatures. Due to their bulbous heads and 8 strong tentacles, Tom had been fascinated by these enormous cephalopods for a considerable time. Tales of their intelligence and cunning had fueled his curiosity. And that day, he would have the chance to witness one of these remarkable beings in its natural habitat. Checking his equipment and diving with his friend Sarah at his side, Tom dove into the emerald green depths, feeling the cold embrace of the Puget Sound overtake his body. As they descended, the world above faded away, replaced by a realm of muted hues and dancing beams of sunlight that pierced the gloom. It wasn't long before Tom's keen eyes spotted their quarry, a massive octopus, its mottled red and white body clinging to the rocky outcropping of an underwater cliff face. The creature was amazing in size, even up close, its tentacles languidly flowing with the mild currents. With a slow and deliberate movement to avoid startling the octopus, Tom approached it cautiously and respectfully while giving Sarah a signal. As he drew closer, he marveled at the octopus's intelligent eyes, which seemed to regard him with an equal measure of curiosity and wariness. For several breathless moments, man and beast regarded each other, their silent exchange a study of the primal connection between all living things. Tom felt a surge of wonder, his chest swelling with the thrill of being in such proximity to this magnificent predator. Nevertheless, the octopus's manner changed as he began losing himself in its hypnotic grace. Its previously languid tentacles suddenly tensed, coiling like thick ropes of muscle as its eyes narrowed with a predatory gleam. In a split second, the octopus struck its massive tentacles, unfurling with blinding speed as they lashed out towards Tom. Caught off guard by the sudden attack, Tom barely had time to react as the powerful appendages wrapped around his body, constricting him in a vice-like grip. Tom's mask was ripped from his face, and he found himself staring into the octopus's cold, unblinking eyes as it dragged him toward the safety of its lair, a dark, foreboding crevice in the rocky outcropping. His lungs burned for air as he thrashed against the octopus's iron grip, his limbs flailing uselessly as he was pulled deeper into the gloom. Sarah, her eyes wide with horror, rushed to Tom's aid, her dive knife drawn as she hacked at the octopus's tentacles. But the creature's strength was immense, and for every tentacle severed, two more seemed to take their place, coiling around Tom's struggling form with renewed vigor. As the darkness of the lair enveloped them, Tom felt a surge of primal terror gripping his heart. He was no longer the observer but the prey, his life now hanging in the balance as he battled against the octopus's relentless onslaught. Using every ounce of his strength, Tom fought back, clawing at the thick, muscular tentacles that bound him. He could feel the octopus's powerful beak snapping mere inches from his face, its razor-sharp edges poised to deliver a fatal blow. In desperate self-preservation, Tom reached for his dive knife, his fingers closing around the hilt as he slashed at the tentacles with fierce abandon. The octopus recoiled, its grip momentarily loosening as Tom freed himself. With his lungs burning and limbs trembling from exertion, Tom kicked towards the safety of the open water, his eyes locked on the faint glimmer of sunlight that beckoned from above. Behind him, he could hear the octopus thrashing in its lair, its tentacles lashing out in fury at having lost its prey. As Tom broke the surface, he gulped in precious lungfuls of air, his body racked with tremors as the adrenaline that had fueled his survival instincts began to ebb away. Sarah was at his side in an instant, her face etched with concern as she helped guide him back to the safety of their dive boat. In the days and weeks that followed, Tom's harrowing encounter with the giant Pacific octopus became a legend among the local diving community. His tale of narrowly escaping the creature's clutches was a stark reminder of the raw power and unpredictability that lurked beneath the waves. But for Tom, the experience was more than just a harrowing brush with danger. It was a profound lesson in respect for the natural world and the delicate balance between predator and prey. The scars that marred his body, faint reminders of the octopus's powerful tentacles, became badges of honor, a testament to his indomitable spirit and newfound appreciation for these incredible creatures' majesty. And though the waters of Puget Sound would forever hold a hint of lingering trepidation, Tom's love for diving grew stronger, fueled by a burning desire to explore the mysteries that lay beneath the surface with a renewed sense of caution and reverence. Ultimately, the tentacles of terror had carved a path of understanding that taught Tom that true respect for the natural world came with a healthy dose of humility and awe. He also knew that his adventures would go on, but with the lessons he had learned from his close encounter with one of the ocean's most dangerous predators, he looked out across the calm waters of Puget Sound. On a crisp morning in August 2002, a group of friends set out for a kayaking adventure in the pristine waters of British Columbia. The sun was beginning to rise, casting a golden glow over the calm sea. The air was filled with the scent of salt and pine, and the gentle sound of waves lapping against the rocky shoreline created a serene backdrop for the day's journey. The group consisted of 4 friends, Liam Harris, a 34-year-old outdoor enthusiast who had organized the trip. Emma Lewis, a 30-year-old biologist with a passion for marine life. Ben Cooper, a 28-year-old photographer eager to capture the beauty of the wilderness. And Rachel Adams, a 32-year-old teacher looking to unwind from the stresses of the school year. They launched their kayaks from Telegraph Cove, a secluded spot locals favor for its tranquility and abundant wildlife. British Columbia was famous for its rich marine ecosystem, home to seals, sea lions, and various fish species. But the most awe-inspiring residents were the orcas, or killer whales, that roamed these waters. Known for their intelligence and complex social structures, orcas were feared and admired by those who encountered them. As the group paddled into the open water, they marveled at the beauty around them. The sea was a deep blue, mirroring the clear sky above. Emma pointed out a family of seals basking on a nearby rock, while Ben snapped photos of the picturesque scene. The friends chatted and laughed, their spirits high as they embraced the adventure ahead. The date was August 18th, and the day seemed perfect for exploration. The kayakers paddled further from the shore, enjoying the freedom of the open water. With her keen eye for wildlife, Emma spotted the first sign of orcas in the distance, a series of dark dorsal fins breaking the surface. She alerted the group and they all stopped to watch, excited by the prospect of a close encounter with these magnificent creatures. The pod of orcas approached slowly, their sleek black and white bodies moving gracefully through the water. The kayakers felt awe and excitement, knowing they were witnessing something extraordinary. Orcas, known as killer whales, were the ocean's top predators. Despite their name, they rarely posed a threat to humans. However, their size and power commanded respect. Liam, Emma, Ben, and Rachel remained still, hoping to look closer without disturbing the animals. The orcas seemed curious, swimming closer to the kayaks. One particularly young orca caught Emma's attention. It was smaller than the others, likely a juvenile, and appeared more playful. It swam around the group, occasionally breaching the surface and splashing water with its tail. The kayakers were mesmerized by the display and felt privileged to be in the presence of such incredible creatures. Little did they know, the encounter was about to turn dark. The young orca's playful behavior soon became more aggressive. It began nudging Liam's kayak, initially with gentle pushes that grew stronger each pass. Liam tried to keep his kayak steady, but the orca's forceful nudges made it difficult. The group exchanged worried glances, realizing that the situation was becoming dangerous. Emma, with her knowledge of marine life, knew that orcas could be unpredictable, especially young ones who might not yet have complete control of their strength. The group tried to remain calm, hoping the orca would lose interest and swim away. But the juvenile seemed fixated on Liam's kayak, continuing to push and bump it increasingly. The tension in the air was palpable as the friends braced themselves for what might come next. The young orca's behavior escalated quickly. Its playful nudges turned into aggressive shoves, dangerously rocking Liam's kayak. The orca's powerful movements disturbed the water's calm surface, sending waves rippling outward. Liam gripped the sides of his kayak, trying to maintain his balance. But the orca's forceful pushes made it nearly impossible. Emma, Ben, and Rachel watched in growing fear, unsure how to help. They knew that getting too close could also put them in danger. The juvenile orca, seemingly undeterred, rammed Liam's kayak with a sudden burst of energy, tipping it over. Liam was thrown into the cold water, his kayak flipping upside down. Panic surged through the group as they saw Liam struggling in the water. The orca circled, its presence a looming threat. Liam tried to swim towards his overturned kayak, but the orca blocked his path, nudging him with its nose. Each touch was a reminder of the orca's immense power, and Liam's heart pounded with fear. Emma, thinking quickly, signaled to Ben and Rachel to stay back while she paddled towards Liam. She knew they had to act fast to get him out of the water before the orca became more aggressive. The young orca continued to nudge Liam, causing him to gasp for air each time he was pushed underwater. Emma reached Liam and grabbed his arm, pulling him towards her kayak. Sensing the movement, the orca swam closer, its dorsal fin cutting through the water like a knife. Emma's heart raced as she struggled to keep both of them afloat. Ben and Rachel watched helplessly, their kayaks bobbing in the choppy water. Emma desperately tried to drag Liam to her kayak. She held on to him tightly, hoping the orca would back off. But the juvenile orca seemed more determined than ever. It swam around them, creating a whirlpool effect that made it hard for Emma to paddle. The water was now a chaotic mix of waves and foam, each movement of the orca sending ripples of fear through the group. Liam clung to the side of Emma's kayak, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The cold water sapped his strength, and he struggled to stay conscious. Emma knew they couldn't wait any longer. She shouted at Ben and Rachel to paddle towards the shore and get help. They nodded and started swimming with all their might, quick and frantic strokes. Emma kept a firm grip on Liam, her eyes never leaving the orca. The young whale circled them one last time before it seemed to lose interest, perhaps sensing the arrival of more humans. It swam off, leaving the water calm once more. Emma felt relief, but she knew they weren't safe yet. Ben and Rachel reached the shore and alerted a nearby boat. A rescue team arrived within minutes, pulling Liam and Emma to safety. Liam was rushed to the hospital, where he was treated for hypothermia and minor injuries. The group's ordeal had lasted only a few hours, but it felt like an eternity. The kayakers' harrowing experience at Telegraph Cove became a story of survival and the unpredictable nature of wildlife. The young orca's behavior was a stark reminder of the power and unpredictability of the ocean's inhabitants. Liam, Emma, Ben, and Rachel would carry the memory of that day with them forever, their bond strengthened by the shared experience of facing danger together.